Hi, everybody, welcome. Again, my name is Bruce Weinstein. Those who don't know me, got a couple of friends on here. Fraternity brother of mine, Thad, welcome, and old high school, junior high school buddy, Andy Palavoda. So glad you guys could join us. Jennifer's down here in Florida. She's also a client of ours. Jennifer, thanks for joining us. But we got some new faces and new names, so hopefully you guys will come on camera and join us. I'm Bruce Weinstein. I've been a financial advisor as of yesterday, starting my 40th year in the industry. My wife Robin is with us. We started Weinstein Wealth Insurance Solutions. We have Plan Man Insurance now for 5 years. I have a podcast called Ask the Plan Man where I share all kinds of financial planning, investment, and insurance advice. Hi, Kim. I see you there. And this is something that Robin and I are doing now to help people understand Medicare and offer our services and assistance to them. We like to start off by saying anything in the world of insurance, the insurance companies pay us. Never cost you anything to work with us in any regard of the world of insurance. A financial advisor might charge you a fee to manage their money, but nobody in the insurance world should be charging you for their time or the education. So if you sign up for Medicare products, you buy life insurance products, you go on Obamacare, whatever it is that you do in the walks of insurance, auto and home, all the carriers pay us. So we do this as a way to attract new clients, offer our services and expertise. As we said, we're doing this literally 40 years now. And so we're glad that you're joining us. We're going to use the chat. Like I said, put in some questions. If you look at the bottom of your toolbar, you should be able to raise your hand if I'm not seeing you in the chat, but I will pay attention there. We're going to just rattle through the kind of the do's and the don'ts and what the steps are that you need to be doing, the types of programs that are out there, how Medicare works, and all the various timelines. And then Robin will interject with me as we break down some of these topics. So everybody good to go? All right. So obviously, Medicare is for when you turn 65 years of age. Your Medicare window opens 90 days before your birthday, your 65th birthday. So if your birthday's in September, your window will open up in June, and you will go to, and I'll put it in the chat, ssa.gov, socialsecurity.gov, which is where you'll also, by the way, be registering for your Social Security when that time comes. Remember, one has nothing to do with the other. They're working autonomously from each other. So just because you turn 65 doesn't mean you're ready to or want to take Social Security. You could also have taken Social Security at 62, but you're not getting Medicare until you're 65. Okay, so they are mutually exclusive in that regard, but it is the same website. You click on different places. Once you go on ssa.gov, you're going to register for what's called Part A and Part B. And I'm going to break that down in a second where there might be some exception to that rule. But Part A is your hospitalization. Part B are your doctor visits and services like surgeries and things. Some of you might be on a company plan, a spouse's company plan. You haven't retired. You still have an active plan at your employment where you can stay on, and you may find it more desirable to stay on their health insurance plan. That's going to come down to costs, right? That's what we want to assess with everybody is what are the variables here? What are the costs? Do you know your numbers? And does it make sense to switch to Medicare or stay on your company plan? So numbers will talk. If you're going to stay on your company plan or your spouse's company plan, then you would be deferring your Part B, as in boy. You would still register and activate your A, and you would defer your B. Why? Because we pay for Part B. Part A is free. So once you activate your Part B, there's a minimum cost of $185 a month that you would then be responsible for. And unfortunately, we've seen people who didn't know that they were supposed to defer their B and stayed on their company plan. We had one client was in his 80s when he came to us last year. He was 85, and he was a professor at the university here, and he was on the company plan through the school all those years and was paying his Part B. And he was spending, go ahead, Rob.
I just want to share that you'll be automatically enrolled in your Part B if you take Social Security prior to you physically enrolling. If you're taking your Social Security, the government will enroll you in your B if you've done that. So if you don't want that, you need to take steps to tell them you don't want to be enrolled in your B. Okay.
So somebody takes Social Security at 62, they turn around, they find out they've been auto-enrolled in Medicare when they turn 65. Okay.
Right.
Now, your Part B, that $185, you will pay separately. You'll get billed quarterly until you go on Social Security, and then they take your Part B out of your check, which is why the auto enrollment, when you're already on Social Security, they kind of assume you're going on Medicare. So if you're not planning on doing that, you're still, let's say, on a spouse plan, you want to defer, then you need to let them know. All right. Does that make sense, everybody? Now, in regards to Part B, there is an income threshold or an income table that actually adds a surcharge. It's called IRMA. Robin can tell me what IRMA means. I never, what's
It's
income?
adjusted, yeah, income, IRMAA, adjusted monthly something. I'll get you the whatever it is. We just call it IRMA. I'll give
Called
you the,
IRMA. There's a
yeah.
table. Now, your IRMA surcharge is a 2-year look back. And so around $225,000 is the household threshold, joint income. Anything below that 225 mark or so is the $185 cost that I'm referring to. As you make more above that or have made more above that, we have clients that still run their business. They still are making sizable income. There's a surcharge. The 185 goes up as high as another $602 at the top end. So anybody making over $750,000 a year joint income actually pays closer to $800 a month for their Part B. That's challengeable if it's a one-off time that the income happened, your circumstance have changed, there is an appeal process, so you can try and fight it. But it is a 2-year rolling look back. So if you're tired at 65 and you had good income at age 63 and 64, it's going to bite you a little bit, and then eventually it'll wean off and bring you back down. If you're still running a business, you still have sizable income coming in. Now, it's not investment income, it's earned income. So it's like a W-2, a distribution, a K-1 from your business, things of that nature. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, interest, IRA distributions do not count towards your IRMA surcharge. All right, makes sense for everybody? Any questions on that? So we have Part A, we have Part B. Now you have to start deciding there's 2 channels, there's 2 paths. You have Medicare supplements and you have Medicare Advantage. They're 2 distinctly different programs that you have to assess what's best for you. So we're going to break down exactly what they are, how they work in notion, not specific plans, because every plan could potentially be different from each other, and there are different choices. But you have a Medicare supplement, you pay for that. There's different, again, there's parts and plans, so people will get confused, myself included, using the part and the plan by mistake. But there's Plan G, Plan N. There used to be a Plan F, so there's different plans available in the supplement space. Plan G, as in George, is the strongest. It's where we find most of our clients will prefer to land. But then there's also Plan N, which is a notch below it. So most of our clients are either G's or N's. Okay. And again, for today, we're not going to get into all the minutia of it, but the prices will vary, and N is less expensive than a G. What's an interesting fact is that the pricing for the plans vary by insurance company and also vary by state. A Plan G in Dallas, Texas could be $125 a month. And for Andy in New Jersey, it could be $200. For Jennifer in Delray Beach, Florida, it's closer to $250. Somebody living in New York, it's $300. It's the same identical program, same benefits, same coverage, but the prices do vary dramatically by the states. Okay. Rob, you want to add anything on that?
No, that's completely accurate, 100%.
Okay. Now, When people say Cigna, Aetna, United Healthcare, Humana, and they see the price sheet for all the plan Gs or the plan Ns, there might be 10 or 15 carriers, insurance companies in your market, and they're sorted by price. And fundamentally, Robin and I look at the least expensive price that we can offer you as our client. We don't always have access to every product in every market, but we have all the big names. There's no loyalty, there's no network. If you're used to being in Cigna when you were under 65, it doesn't mean you need to go find Cigna because your doctors only take Cigna. Medicare works totally different than what you've been used to for the last 40 years of health insurance. Okay, your Medicare supplements are non-network based. It's free reign. You go anywhere in the country. Ideally, they are good for people who have multiple homes. We live in Florida. We're from New Jersey. People snowbird. Thad wants to come down here for 3 months. His supplement's going to work no matter where he is in the country. He goes to visit his brother. He goes to visit family. He spends time in California. He's down in Florida. Doesn't matter. He lives and he's based in Pennsylvania. That will not be the case with Medicare Advantage. We'll come back to that in a couple of minutes. But that's one of the distinctions. People might say, well, why would I want one over the other? And some of those questions are going to be, tell us about your retirement lifestyle. Like, do you travel? Do you snowbird? Do you have multiple homes? Where are the kids and the grandkids? How much time do you spend with them? If they're not in your local market, a supplement will definitely help solidify your coverages. Okay? Questions on any of that? All right, so we got Part A, hospitalization. Part B are your doctors. You have your plans, G, N, and the like. The way I like to describe it is if you go the supplemental route, everything is a la carte. There's 4 components you're going to be considering and assessing to pay for. Your Part B, everybody has to pay that. Your supplement, going to be a separate cost, as we just described, anywhere from 125 into the 300 range, depending on your market. Then you have to pick a prescription drug plan. They call that Part D or a PDP, prescription drug plan. If you're using a supplement process, you have to pick your own prescription plan as well. If you don't take any medications, feel like, what do I need to sign up for this for? And you'll wait, you need to be aware there is a surcharge or a penalty phase by not enrolling at the beginning of your enrollment process. So again, we shared in our last webinar, we had a rabbi of all things, 86 years of age, and we get a phone call and they need to put him on a prescription plan. At this point in his life, for 20 years, the guy's never taken any medications. Wonderful. Now he needs something. He's got 20 years of surcharge added to the price. It's like 1% a month, right?
It's 1% per month of the national average that they'll assess on top of your Part D plan, and that is non-negotiable. There's nothing you can do about that.
Now, the good news is there are prescription plans that are free. So there's no reason not to sign up for one. Nobody's saying go buy a $200 a month prescription drug plan if you don't need it. There are plenty of plans out there that are actually no charge.
Zero
Okay, no
premium,
cost. That's right. Should be illegal. It's not.
Zero premium.
Now, let's also tie in that IRMA surcharge that we talked about for your Part B also gets applied to your Part D. So there's 2 components that have an IRMA surcharge, prescription drug and your Part B. Okay. And we're going to send out a grid. So everybody, I don't like to screen share and blank out because then I can't see and make eye contact and talk to me more intimately, but we'll send you a slide deck with everything and you'll see all of these components as well as a follow-up. Okay. So there's an IRMA surcharge on your prescription plan. I want to kind of deviate, but it does tie in some of the changes that have occurred, what's going on the prescriptions. It's become a little bit of a problem for Robin and I in the sense of what we do and how we do what we do, because we don't want to ever leave a client to their own device. We always want to help. We're very concierge in that regard. We want to take you all the way to the finish line and beyond. The problem is Medicare changed last year under the previous administration. The Biden administration shrunk the donut hole down to $2,000. The donut hole was tied to your prescription plans, where you'll get relief from the insurance, and then you'll pick up some charge, and you'll pay towards the donut hole, and then after you met the donut hole, the insurance kicks in again. So now they've squeezed that the most liability anybody has is $2,000 a year. So instead of an $8,000, $6,000 exposure, it shrunk it down to two. And that's a good thing for the consumer. However, the however is who's picking up that cost. So all the insurance companies that sell and offer prescription plans, a lot of them did the following. They eliminated plans. They eliminated our contract on a lot of their plans. If I don't have a contract, I can't enroll you. They don't compensate us. And my malpractice insurance, called errors and omission, doesn't cover us. So it's left millions of people that were relying on their advisors, people like us, to help them every year assess their prescription needs. Now, you're young and healthy and, hopefully in good mind and body and spirit right now. But think about your 90-year-old mother trying to sort through 15 medications on her own and applying that into the Medicare website to understand drug formularies and assessing 35 plans in her market. It's going to fail. It's an epic fail. And so they pulled the ripcord on us, where we cannot legally sign you up nor endorse or recommend prescription plans. So this year we've taken people kind of to the line. We do the extra work, even though they're not compensating us, because we want to help our clients properly get a plan. And then we plug in the medications, we plug in the options that they have. And then you'll see, it'll say on the screen, if we work for you, it'll say non-commissionable, and then it'll say commissionable. So any plan that says non-commissionable means we don't have a contract. We can't sell it. They don't compensate us. And keep in mind, we're talking $50. Like, it's not major money, but they had to squeeze their margins to incorporate the $2,000 limitation, because now everybody has to eat that. All right. So does that make sense, everybody? So we will help you with your prescription selection. We're never going to tell you to buy a plan that's more expensive because it compensates us. We will tell you, this is the best plan for you. Here's the phone number. You have to complete the process. We cannot do it for you or with you. Okay. So we'll do your prescription work. You'll have to enroll. We'll help you with your Part G or N. They will compensate us for that. Okay. Make sense, everybody? Any questions? Anything else, Robin, I missed? No? Okay. All right. That's pretty much one side of the ledger. Okay. So you have your Medicare supplement side. Everything's a la carte. One other piece I could tie in is dental, vision, hearing. If you're not retiring with or have a plan that's already in place that's private, if you're leaving your company job and you're losing your dental and your vision coverage, that's a separate item as well. That'll run between $40 and $60 a month. Again, depending on your market, depending on the plan. So all of those are a la carte when you go the supplement side. Fair enough? Okay. So what's Medicare Advantage? What are the differences? Why do you see all these commercials with Jimmy Walker and Joe Namath and Joe Montana? All right. The season's coming up October 15th, and the TV is going to start blasting you with all of these Medicare Advantage commercials. You don't usually see Medicare Supplement. You see Medicare Advantage. Medicare Advantage, totally separate program than supplements. It's going to be network driven. There are PPOs as well as HMOs, but they are still network driven. So if you go to Humana, if you go to Cigna, if you go to United Healthcare, you're using their network, and their network is localized. So if you're living in New Jersey and Andy has a place in a condo in Florida and he's coming down here for the winter and he prefers to be on Medicare Advantage, he's going to have to change his plan to a Florida-based plan, a Palm Beach County plan, if that's where he's at. And then when he goes back to New Jersey, he has to then turn back on his New Jersey plan. Okay. So a little bit of, some wrinkles in that regard. But then you're back to using a network, maybe needing to get referrals. Again, pros and cons. Medicare Advantage really has no premium or no cost to you. The reason you see the commercials on TV is Medicare Supplement is derived off of what's referred to as original Medicare, the 80-20 Medicare. So Medicare pays 80, you're responsible for 20, and you're using the supplement to fill in the 20. Medicare Advantage, the government is actually selling your care to that insurance company, to that provider, and they pay them upwards of $10,000 a year to manage your care. The government now is not involved. Let's just use Humana. So you're dealing with Humana. Humana is providing you your hospitalization networks. They're providing you your doctors, your outpatient care, your prescription drug plans. They even give you some dental vision options. So Medicare Advantage is very bundled to the provider. Because they're paid by Medicare, they have a profit margin that's built in that they're allowed to keep, and then they give back services. That's why you'll see gym memberships or silver sneakers or Meals on Wheels, or you'll see programs that'll offer to drive you to the doctor for people that don't drive anymore. So there's a lot of extra features, depending on your market, depending on the carriers, that come with Medicare Advantage. So it's enticing, right? It sounds good. There's no cost to you outside of paying your Part B to the government, to Medicare. Medicare Advantage doesn't bill you or have any costs. So that 125 to 300, the prescription plan cost, the dental vision cost, that's all kind of bundled. Now, the dental vision is going to be a little more inferior compared to a private pay plan. So again, depending on your needs, how good your mouth is, your history with your dental needs, you may still want to have a separate, better policy if you go with Advantage. Okay? Medicare Advantage has a hidden cost. Okay? Robin and I like to say the following. One program is Pay Me Now. The other program is Pay Me Later. Medicare Advantage is the Pay Me Later. So when you buy a supplement, you have a fixed monthly cost of your premium. And if you do a Plan G, you have about a $250 deductible. Once you've met that annual deductible of $250 on your Plan G, you have zero financial exposure. So your premium is pretty much your exposure, minus the $250. So you have a $30,000 bill, you have an $8,000 bill, you have a $1,000 bill. It's all going to get covered after the $250. Medicare Advantage has annual maximum out of pocket. Some of them will have deductibles. Most of them will have copays. So as you're needing services, as you're aging, getting older, your health is worsening, Medicare Advantage can cost you up to $8,000 a year in financial exposure. And it's ongoing, right? Depending on what you're getting done, if it's chronic, somebody's like, on dialysis or, some other needs that are ongoing, that expense is always going to reoccur in Medicare Advantage. We find clients want to get off of Advantage when that happens and now move back to a supplement. And the problem is your supplement is subject to underwriting after your initial enrollment window. Okay, I didn't cover that yet. So I said before, you have 90 days before your birthday and 90 days after your birthday to enroll in Medicare. So you go on the government site, you apply for your card, now you pick your plans. You've got about a 7-month window, your birth month wrapped around 2-3-month windows. You're Rip Van Winkle, you fell asleep, you miss it, it's a year later, you forgot, you didn't do anything, you weren't paying attention. you are now outside of your initial enrollment window, IEP, initial enrollment period. Okay. During your initial enrollment period, no matter what your health history is, cancer, heart attack, stroke, MS, lupus, diabetes, whatever, things that would normally get you declined on other insurances, Medicare supplements have to take you during your initial enrollment. Once you elect out of that, go to Medicare Advantage, and somewhere 5, 10, 20 years down the road, you want to come back to Medicare Supplement, you're subject to underwriting. Okay? Which means you have to be approved, which means those knockout questions become very important. If you can't answer no, you will be declined. There are some plans that are guaranteed issue. They're very expensive, like $800 a month compared to $200. Okay. So we tend to find people that are now in their 70s and beyond, late 70s, 80s. Now their health is worsening. They're starting to need more services, hip replacement, knee replacement, shoulder replacement, bypass, whatever. And boom, 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 they're getting $6,000 and $8,000 bills. And now they call us, they want to move to a supplement. 9 out of 10 times they're not going to be able to. Okay. It's going to be very hard to move over. So they're kind of stuck. Now, on the bright side, we had a couple that called us a year or so ago. I pointed out to them how much money they saved not being on a supplement those 15 years. Those 12 years that they were on it. So as bad as they felt and as disappointed that they couldn't move, and now we're paying these $6,000 or $8,000, I reminded them that it didn't spend $30,000, $40,000 on premiums all those years either. So they're still somewhat ahead of the game. So again, you have to assess your needs, your health, your family history. What are you dealing with? Do you want to pay me now or do you want to pay me later? And then assess which of the plans make the most sense to you financially. Okay. Now, we tend not to work with lower income people. We do on occasion. But if your income's below certain levels, the Medicare Advantage plans can provide reimbursement to your 185 Part B, which is a further incentive to sometimes go to Advantage. So again, you'll see commercials on TV. We've had clients that have been misled and they call us to help them fix it. They saw an ad on TV and they called, and the next thing they know, they're being moved to something else. And the ad was, you can get your Part B reimbursed, your $185. Call this number. Well, if your income's not meeting that threshold, you're not going to get it reimbursed. It's not going to be covered. But now you called them, and now they're going to try and move you or sell you something else. Okay? Here's Medicare Rule 101. We cannot call you. You have to call us. So if you ever get a solicitation phone call, somebody's trying to get your information or ask you about Medicare or seeing that you're turning 65 legally, they are not allowed to initiate contact. That's why you see the ads on the TV to try and get you to call them, and then they do their thing. Okay? But if Andy's referring me to somebody we went to school with, hey, call my friend Stu. Here's his number. I have to tell Andy, thank you very much, but Stu needs to call us. I'm not allowed to call Stu. Even though you're referring him, I'm not allowed to call him for Medicare. Okay? So anytime somebody's calling you, and when you turn 64, you're going to get bombarded with mail, postcards, phone calls. People are definitely going to try and get you to talk to them. You can remind them, hey, I understand that legally you're not allowed to call me. Why are you calling? Right? And you can turn them in. That's up to you. Go ahead, Rob. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just going to say it's called permission to contact, and you can let them know that you don't recall filling out a permission to contact. They'll hang up immediately.
A lot of stuff is call centers. A lot of stuff comes from overseas, and they bend the rules. They're calling you from a Philippine, or an Indian call center, and then they're claiming they're not liable, but they are because they're working for a U.S. company and they're breaking the rule, plain and simple. Okay, we have to combat that all the time. All right, any questions on that? Once you apply, it takes about 30 days to get your card. You're going to get a little red, white, and blue card. It's going to have a dedicated Medicare ID number. That's your new version of a Social Security number. Like that's going to be your identification. So everywhere you go, anything you do, you're going to give them your Medicare card. You're going to send that to us. You're going to send that to anybody that's helping you. We need to get a copy of the card. We verify your effective dates. Your effective dates is when your Medicare is starting. And then you want to align your other services with your effective date. So, Thad, your birthday's December, right? Yeah, right. So in September, we're going to remind Thad that his window is now opened. Go to ssa.gov and he's going to apply, right? 30 days later, he's going to get his card. He's going to send us a copy of his card. We're now going to start to build out his profile and get him going. We send out a template of all kinds of information, doctors' names, medications, whatever it is that we need. We build out your profile. We plug in your medications. We plug in your doctors. Why? Because if you're going to go with Medicare Advantage, we need to see where all of that fits in. What's the best prescription plan? What's the best Medicare Advantage plan that your doctors participate in? If Andy's going to go to a supplement, his doctor information isn't that important. Medications are because we still need a prescription plan, but the doctors are not relevant anymore because if you're on a supplement, it's what? It's an open network. There's no more network. Anywhere in the country, any hospital, any provider, as long as they participate in Medicare, they will take your coverage. Okay? Very different than the Medicare Advantage. Once you get your card, we build that. We send you the template. You send us the template. The next step the government requires is what's called obtaining a scope of appointment, SOA, scope of appointment. All of this is consumer protection. It's not something I want to do. It's not something Robin wants to do. It's something we have to do. The government requires it. So again, if anybody is talking to you and is not asking for a scope of appointment, that's an alert. That's an alarm. Question, Nancy. I do not need Part B yet. I'm still employed on my company's insurance. Do I need to tell Medicare this somehow? If so, how often do I need to inform them? So, great question, Nancy. So we started a little bit at the beginning about if you're staying on an existing group plan, spousal or your own, then you would defer B. You would only enroll in A. So when you go into the site, ssa.gov, you're only going to activate Part A, and you need to have what's called, I always forget what, comparable coverage, credible coverage.
Credible.
Your employer has to have credible coverage to continue that deferral. So to your question, you don't have to notify Medicare every year. When you turn 65, you just enroll for A, you defer B, you stay on your company eligible plan. By the way, company plans that are smaller than 20 employees are not credible coverage and will not allow you to stay on it. If you're in a bigger company, more than 20 employees, you're safe. But if you work for a little small operation with 10 employees, you should be prepared. You're not going to be eligible to stay on that plan. If your spouse works, go ahead, Ro.
Sorry, I just want to share. You can get that from your HR department. They should be able to readily provide you with something stating that your coverage is either creditable or not creditable. And if it's not creditable and you defer your B, you'll be penalized for not enrolling in B at your initial enrollment period because you did not have credible coverage to bridge that gap when you turn 65. Okay, so that's something you want to talk to your HR group.
And you lose your IEP. You lose that guarantee to get any plan you want. So if you've ruined that process, didn't take advantage of it, didn't properly defer, now you're subject to underwriting. And that could be a problem. Okay. So it is important, Nancy, that you properly position this, that you have credible coverage where you are, ask HR for a letter, making sure before you opt out of B. Now, again, we have people coming to us past the age of 65 that are now finally deciding to retire, or their spouse is retiring and that plan's going to go away. And then we begin the process with them, same thing, but they're in their IEP. They still have their eligibility for their initial enrollment. Even though they're 72 years of age, they deferred properly and they're eligible for any plan that's available without underwriting, without approval. Okay, good. Questions? I think I covered everything. I cover everything. I got scope of appointment.
Good.
Right? So that's pretty much the problem. Oh, let's talk about scope of appointment real quick. So the scope of appointment is going to be 4 boxes that we offer for you to check off. Again, this is consumer protection. So it'll have dental vision, it'll have med sup, it'll have Medicare Advantage, it'll have Part D, prescription drug. Whatever box you indicate is all that conversation can now take place on. So we'll ask you, Thad, mark all 4 boxes just to be safe in case you ask us something outside of the other boxes. Okay? But if you only mark Medicare supplement, we're going to write you back. Are you sure that's all you want to talk about? Didn't you want to talk about prescriptions? Didn't you want to talk about dental? Oh, yeah, okay. Here's another form. Please mark it off. Okay? So whatever's on there is by law all we're allowed to talk about. Now, if Andy wants to talk to me about his homeowner's insurance, which we do, I cannot discuss it during that conversation about his Medicare. I'd say, Andy, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about that. I can't do that today. I can't do that right now. We have to end this conversation and start a brand new conversation on that topic. Again, why? Consumer protection. A lot of people door knock. A lot of Medicare agents go out. They knock on homes. They pry on some elderly people. They sit at the table. Next thing you know, they're buying an annuity and aluminum siding and a prescription plan. And Thad's like, why do I have new aluminum siding? And Kim goes, well, the guy seemed nice and he said he'd give us a good deal and the house needed repair. Not allowed. Only the topics on the scope of appointment. And again, that's to protect the consumer. Okay? Questions? If I stay on my spouse's program over 65 and allowed, just making sure there's no penalty. Yeah, if Kim's plan is credible coverage, then you're basically taking your pass go, collect $200, and you're putting it in your pocket till you're ready to use it. Okay, so yeah, if you're going to wait till, let's say, you're 68 and you stay on her plan those 3 years, you're properly deferred, you have credible coverage, and then you get to pick any plan you want at that point in time. Is that answering your question? Yep. Okay. Mr. Smith, Nancy, Jennifer, any questions? Andy? Andy's trying to come off mute, I think. I don't know how to.
He said, oh no, somebody said good here.
Sometimes you just hit the
I was
space.
going to type it in, but I guess I'll just put it out there.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I have my silent partner here feeding me questions too, by the way. She says, if I'm in a situation, I take the Advantage plan, and I'm in New Jersey most of the time. I spend 95% of my time in New Jersey. But I decide to go visit my mother in Florida, like last time. What was the question? How will I be covered on the Advantage plan? Like temporarily, I leave the state.
It's going to be subjective to what's occurred and what you need. Okay. You're not going to come to Florida for the 2 weeks and get your annual exam down here. You're going to do that back at home. Okay. Right. If anything, it'll be more of an emergency situation, an injury, you fell, you got sick, you went to urgent care, or God forbid you need the ER. You're out of network. No different than your health insurance now. Okay. You're out of network. Okay. So you got to understand the policy that you're buying and what your coverage is when you're out of network. In a lot of cases, if you just think of the under 65 programs that are out there, let's say Obamacare, ACA, if I'm in a Florida-based Obamacare plan, and I'm visiting Thad, we have our golf outing in Pennsylvania, and I hurt myself, and Thad takes me to the ER because my shoulder dislocated, I'm now paying out-of-network prices. So I have an out-of-network deductible, I have an out-of-network maximum out-of-pocket, and that's normally 2 times my in-network levels.
Okay.
So your Medicare Advantage might work the same way. Your $1,000 deductible, your $8,000 max out of pocket. Now you're in Florida, your max out of pocket might be $16,000 instead of $8,000. So going to the ER in Boca while you're here going to be much more expensive to you than in your home market.
Medicare Advantage is going to work so differently because everything on a Med Sup is the same no matter what company you choose. Your Aetna plan, your Humana plan, your United Healthcare, your Plan G is your Plan G is your Plan G, no matter where you are in the country. Your United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan could be very different than Thad's United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan, being in 2 different states, 2 different markets, 2 different everything. So they're very, the nuances in an Advantage plan are going to be vastly different state to state, market to market. There's nothing similar. Your supplement are going to be identical company by company by company. So it's a little bit of a risk.
Nancy put a question in. I'm trying to add it to the chat. So she says, does the IRMA surcharge increase every year if my income increases? Yes, it's a rolling 2-year look back. So if you're actively staying on Medicare and working and your income is increasing, and I put the link in so you can see the grid. Joint income this year is 212,000. I said 225. So from 0 to 212 is your base rate of 185. From 212 to 262, there's a surcharge. 266 to 334. There it goes. Robin put it in the chat. Okay. So if your income's going up in those years, your IRMA surcharge is going to keep going up with it. If your income's going down, then it'll start to slide down. But you are always subject to that surcharge.
If I might, we actually have a potential client that contacted us that opted to stay on their group plan through the end of this year because they sold a business 2 years ago and they're going to get hammered on their IRMA. So it's cheaper to stay on their company plan until that rolls back to 2024 numbers after the sale of their business. So they're staying on their plan for that reason, because their IRMA is going to be so hard hit.
There is a cost to stay on my wife's program. Is that a question or a statement?
Well, I'm going to do the same thing as Andrew. I'm coming off because I got someone in my ear over here asking questions too.
No, go ahead.
Well, I hit the enter button. That's why before I got finished typing. So if there's that cost that I have to my wife, stay on my wife's program after 65, can I, when I turn 65, can I technically shop
Yeah,
first to see what my cost might be through Medicare
absolutely.
versus staying on her plan before I make that decision?
Yeah,
Still have that
you
balance.
say, look, I'm based on what you guys said, I'm interested in Plan G. Here's my zip code. Here's my date of birth. We can give you a rough price breakdown and say, okay, in State College, it's $175. So now you have 185 for your Part B. You have your 175. Let's just say your prescription plan's, $20 a month, and then a dental vision. And then you're going to compare that to how much your participation is on her plan. Now, again, if you don't know, the basic guidelines for health insurance under 65, the employer is responsible for a minimum of 50%, in this case of Kim's costs. Kim's employer is not responsible for any of Thad's, but they can voluntarily as a perk, offer and pay more. But a 64-year-old in most health insurance plans are $1,000, $1,200 a month alone. So now when you look at the Medicare costs of, let's just say, $400, I got a $400 cost versus the company plan at $1,100. And then what else do we want to know? Well, what's the company plan's deductible? What's their max out of pocket? What are their copays? So now when you look at that to a plan G that has $150, $200 premium and a $250 deductible, it begs the question, why are you staying on your company's plan, your spouse's plan, based upon just the quality of the coverage, let alone the price? So you want to, again, knowledge is information, right? Power and knowledge, that's how you make your decisions. So the more information we have, we can assess this. Dave, right? Our brother Dave was on his spouse's plan and now was going through some surgeries. And I said, Dave, you should really move to Medicare because the plan you have has a $6,000 max out of pocket and the Medicare is going to be $250. But the timing of what he needed done and getting it done, he was too frazzled to really dig into it. But he made a $6,000 decision by staying on his spouse's plan. If he had moved to Medicare, yeah, he would have paid the premium, but he only would have had a $250 exposure instead of $6,000. So again, why are we doing this? To educate you, the do's and don'ts, and the I don't knows, so you kind of know going in to the things you need to be aware of or think about, or at least tell us so we can help you assess it. Right?
Exactly. Yep. That's basically what it was, because there is a cost. She does pay a cost for me to be on the plan. So
yeah, it's not common for the spouses to be covered, at least on an absolute 100% basis. You might get some relief. It might be a discounted price. It might only be $800 or it might only be $400, but it's rarely free and rarely covered by the company.
got it.
All right. The last component here, people ask about travel, international, you retire, you want to travel more frequently, i.e. leaving the country. Medicare is not really a solution for that. You have a lifetime max of $50,000. That'll be eaten up pretty quickly if you need to be air transported somewhere, God forbid. Okay. So we do offer travel insurance. We have clients that leave the country for 3 months. They travel extensively. They cruise. Every time they leave on a cruise, they call us. It's very nominal costs. You can buy several $1 million of coverage for that window for only a few dollars. Okay. If I decide to use a supplement, would you guys assist with that? Of course, Andy, we'd be happy to. Yeah. Yeah, that's why we're here. From a travel standpoint, you have your cancellation, right? People buy travel insurance. If the plan's canceled, you get sick and you get your money back for the actual trip reimbursement. That's separate. We're talking about having a health insurance plan that works because you're spending the summer in Italy traveling, and now you need medical services or hospitalization. Your Medicare is really not designed to cover that. Okay, so just be aware of that.
Your travel plans will cover things like airlifting, God forbid, like real serious things that Medicare, you can't rely on Medicare outside the country, or in fact, 6 hours away from the United States, Medicare is not able to be used.
Okay. Questions? Well, I know a couple of you, at least three of you, I know your ages or close thereof, so you're still a little bit of ways. But for those of you that need our help or want to talk, I'm putting our calendar link. So we just set up a quick investigative conversation. We'll block some time with you, kind of tell us your particulars, answer your questions, and then kind of get you on a timeline if appropriate. If you want our help, again, no cost, certainly no obligation, but we're going to send you an email tomorrow It'll have our replay, and it'll have, again, a link to our calendar. I'm giving you one now. So if you do want to talk to us, and then, obviously those who I already know, when your time is closer, we'll certainly, be happy to help you as well. All right, I'm going to hit stop recording.